Wonderful. Okay, so Joanna, take it away. She's got her screen shared so you guys can all see that, and please go for it. Oh, I think you're muted, so make sure you unmute yourself.
Let's have a go.
There we go. Perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming along to listen. I'm going to give you a quick tour around France and give you some useful tips and information and some ideas of property prices. Just to let you know who we are, we're a family business. Trevor started the company probably about 20 odd years ago now. We've got over 500 agents working, all who work and live in France. We cover most of the most popular departments, particularly for the US buyers. We're members of the FNAM. We have an in-house contracts team, so we do all the translation of the compromise de vente, etc. for you. And we offer a hand-holding service, so we'll help you every step of the way. So what's happening in the property market at the moment? As Donny said, the market is on the up. We saw over 921,000 sales last year, which is probably around the same as the UK market. The property prices in the provinces rose by about 2.9%, and in some areas as much as 8%. The rural areas still remain low, but they're certainly not dropping anymore. So as Donny said, it's a very good time to buy. Mortgage rates are as low as they've been in quite a long time, and I think this is why the market is moving and it is on the up, and you can get a lot of mortgage rates fixed for term, which Trevor can talk to you about a bit later. Looking at US buyers, you make up around 2.5 of all international sales across France, and however you make up 9% of all international buyers in Paris. American buyers generally spend around, their average spend is 612,000 euros, and in Paris around 755,000. But you don't need to have that amount. We do have lots of properties on the market, as Donny said, under 100,000.
And Joanna, I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second to say that we do have some Canadians and folks from other places on the line. So we are, most of us on the line might be from America, but we love the Canadians and we love all the rest of you guys. So we are. I know these folks can work with anyone and have done.
Fantastic. Great, that's great. So we have a lot of Canadian clients too, so that's great. In fact, this area is very popular in the southwest of France for Canadians. We've got an awful lot here, and a lot of them speaking French, which is great too. So we'll move on. The top type of properties that have been bought in the last year through us, this is from the clients from the USA, are what you can see on the screen there. So it gives you an idea of pricing there as well. So you're looking at around 350, a 500,000 euro property there in Provence. Paris, 495,000. But actually,
on our own price. That's a great price for Paris.
Really, really great prices. And I think as well, on our actual own website, on legateFrance.com, you'll see that we have over 15,000 properties for sale. So in all regions and at all price ranges. So there's a huge choice. To live in France, though, that's the big question. Where do you choose to live? So I thought we'd do a little quick whistle-stop tour of it and start at the top. One of the things that a lot of people don't realise is the difference in temperatures. So this is a heat map which shows you that the southwest of France, which you can see over where it says Vendée, Charente-Maritime, Aquitaine, actually reaches the same temperatures as the south of France. So if you're looking for the sun and you want somewhere hot, you don't necessarily have to be down in the Côte d'Azur or the Languedoc-Roussillon areas. You can be across into the southwest of France. Again, because of the Gulf Stream coming across, it does reach similar temperatures.
And because I'm looking for neighbours.
Yeah, of course. So if we start at the top, Normandy and Brittany, this is at the sort of north and west of France. Ciders made here, and that's a typical dish called galette. The beaches are beautiful. A lot of Parisians have holiday homes in Morbihan, which is in southern Brittany. And the style of property, as you can see there in Normandy with the little boat pictures, it looks sort of fairly similar to that. The average house price, and when I say average house prices, we're looking at 3-bedroom homes, is around 160,000 in Brittany euros, and in Normandy you're looking at around 156,000 euros for property. In rural areas, of course, yeah. In the cities, it's always a little bit more expensive. That will give you an idea of a typical style property that you'll see in Brittany with a slate roof and granite walls. And in Normandy, that's a typical style property that you would see in the Normandy regions. That 3-bedroom cottage is on the market at €85,000, so it's a lovely little property and not very high price. And this one, the 4-bedroom one there at 204, and this one at 199, a large family home in Normandy.
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second, Joanna. I'm sorry. I want to remind people that you can send in questions while she's speaking just via the chat, which is at the bottom. There's a chat window, and you just hit that. And feel free to ask any questions while she's speaking. And in terms of translating it into dollars, 85 is about $110,000. It depends on the rate of the day, and it has gone. The conversion rate's gone up in the last couple of years, but it's still quite reasonable. Anyway, go take it away.
Okay, thank you. So then we're going to move to Bourgogne, or Burgundy, as it's known to us English speakers. This is where beef bourguignon comes from, as you can see on the top left-hand corner, and also Dijon mustard is made in this region. It's a beautiful region if you're interested in historical chateaus, because there's hundreds of chateaus in this area, and a lot available to buy as well. It's very central. It's known as the heart of France, because if you look at it on a map, it's where your heart would be. It's easy access to Paris, it's easy access to the rest of Europe, so it is quite good if you are looking at travelling across France or into other European countries. Then we move to Paris. Paris is obviously extremely popular with all nationalities. As you were saying about the rental market at the moment with the new mayor, it is a little bit tricky now with short-term rentals, so you do need to bear that in mind. And we can give you some advice on that if you are looking at doing something with rentals. However, if the apartment's just for yourself, it's an amazing place to live. We've recently opened an office there, which I think is opposite your own apartment, Dolly.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's lovely there. The square metre rate there is 8,600 for an apartment in Paris. But again, one of my favourite cities in the world. That gives you an idea. There's a 2-bedroom apartment there in the Montmartre area, which is very popular with the artists and musicians, etc. And that's on the market at 698,000. And then there's a 1-bedroom apartment there in the 9th, which is on the market at 356,000. So there are, it is affordable. There are lots of affordable properties in Paris that you can buy. And if you were comparing it to somewhere like London, for example, it is a lot cheaper than London. Then if we move further south to the central regions of France, these are probably the best value for money, because you'll get large properties, lots of land, and at very, very low prices. This is the countryside, it's rural living. Some of the properties have never changed hands and have remained in the same families for generations. You'll be driving through sunflower fields, cattle farms, etc. Very, very pretty area. And again, if you want equestrian or horses, then this again would be a good area for that. The average house prices, you're looking in the Centre region at around 107. In the Limousin, you'd be looking at around 135. And in the Cruz, it's as little as 63,000 is the average house price there. And overseas buyers generally spend around 90,000 within this region.
So just quick question on that. Do you think it's realistic if I wanted to buy in the Cruz, let's say, and I had 90,000, so 110, $15,000, would it be a fixer-upper, or would it, can you get some?
90,000, you would have a lovely home, a renovated property. 90,000 is quite a big budget for the Cruz area. So yes, you wouldn't be looking at a doer-upper, whereas 90,000 in other areas, you definitely would, yes.
Fantastic.
There's an awful lot of choice in these areas, and it is, some of the cheapest areas in France.
Wonderful.
Then we move to the southwest, which is where we live, in the Poitou-Charentes area. The beaches here are absolutely gorgeous. So the Charente-Maritime area is white sandy beaches and miles of them. This is where cognac comes from. Cognac is made in this region. That's the Charentaise melon that you can see, and also the salt comes from this area. There are a couple of islands, Ile de Ré and Ile de Laurent, which are very, very popular, particularly Parisians in Ile de Ré. Slightly more expensive than the Charente-Maritime itself, but very, very popular. And the first thing you'll notice here is the 2,400 hours of sunshine. We get lots of sunny days in the Poitou-Charentes region, and very good oysters.
And Ile de Ré is called the Hamptons of Paris. So in other words, it's a very chic, but it also is unbelievably beautiful and friendly and not intimidating at all. So it is.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful.
If you're looking at a permanent home, though, you have to be aware that, you know, in the summer seasons, from April to September, it's very popular and everything's open, but a lot of things are closed in the winter months. So if you stay full time, then do bear that in mind. You know, certainly for some of the touristic towns that perhaps will shut down in the winter. The Charente itself is beautiful. Again, rolling hills, countryside, and that's around 105,000 for a 3-bedroom property, which is habitable. You know, it doesn't need a lot of work. The prime areas like Cognac and the Charente-Maritime or anywhere on the coast are going to be more priced. You know, going to be slightly higher in prices. It is an extremely popular area. The British public love it there, and we have a lot of buyers from there. And there are more in the Charente and the Dordogne now. And then prior to the Poitou-Charentes, I thought I'd show you a tiny little bargain property there. That little 2-bedroom village house right in the village is 29,000 euros. So, you know, really cheap as chips. And the beautiful Maison Bourgeois, Maison de Maître style property there is on the market at 370,000 euros. So it's such good value in these areas and absolutely stunning properties. Loads of history too. Then if we move to the Aquitaine, which includes the Dordogne, this is a big wine producing region, Bordeaux, Saint-Emilion, the Bergerac, etc. A lot of duck comes from this area. As you can see the Confit de Canard there in the left-hand picture. Down in the bottom left, you can see Brantôme, which is known as the Venice of the Dordogne. Very, very pretty of the Périgord. Sorry, Trevor just interrupting me there. Really, really pretty town, and definitely worth a visit if you're, you know, coming over and doing some exploring of this area. It's lovely rivers running through, really, really historic, beautiful towns to visit as well. That gives you an idea of a typical style property in the Dordogne. That's a Périgordian style roof that you'll see there. And you can see it's sort of like sandstone, limestone type buildings, and the blue shutters, lots of blue shutters in this area. The average house prices, depending on where you are, range from around 120,000. But if you're looking in Bordeaux, you'd be looking at sort of 300,000 up for a 3-bedroom property. Bordeaux has become extremely popular. It's one of the best cities now in Europe, which unfortunately has pushed the property prices up. But it's an amazing, beautiful city. It's definitely worth a visit. And they have a lot of wine festivals and things. It's the city du vin, so there's a lot of wine festivals going on there. That gives you an idea of a property on the market at 299, and then the little gem there with the barn at 88,000 euros. Then if we move further south down to the Pyrenees, where Toulouse is, and you can see the Toulouse sausage on the left-hand side there, very popular for truffles that come from this area as well. You'll notice that the properties will change in style, particularly if you're in the mountain ranges. They'll be much more alpine in style, as you can see there. That apartment near the ski slopes is on the market at 126,000. If you're into sort of outdoor activities, walking, mountain climbing, cycling, etc., it's a really pretty area and lots to do. And obviously in the winter months, there is also the skiing. A typical style property in the Lot, that gives you an idea of the Lot in the Midi-Pyrenees, is on the market there at 225,000. So again, if you look at that property compared to those we saw in Brittany and those we saw in the Charente and the Dordogne, the architecture has changed quite a bit. Then we move south to the south of France, which is the Languedoc-Roussillon area. This again is very popular, a very popular area. You're in the south of France, but you're not paying the south of France prices as such, slightly more expensive than the Dordogne and the Charente. Lots of historical villages and towns. Again, a very big wine producing area. The wine used to be sent up on the Midi Canal up to Bordeaux. A lot of rosé wine from this area, and a lot of Cathar castles. So you can see Carcassonne there just in the right-hand top corner. Again, because it's down near the Mediterranean, you will see a lot of Mediterranean-style properties. So the architecture, again, will change depending on how close to Spain you are or how close to the Mediterranean Sea you are. Again, average house prices in Toulouse is around 280,000. But if you're in sort of towns like Montpellier and some of the bigger cities, then it is going to be a lot higher than that. Here to give you an idea of a really pretty Mediterranean-style villa house in the Ord at 1.9 million. Or you can have this fabulous historical village house with its own watchtower on the market there at 220,000 euros. Then we move across to the Rhône Alps, which is in southeast France. Some of the best skiing in Europe here, so it's extremely popular. This is a very good area for investment because you get all year round investment. In some of the ski resorts, for example, like Chamonix, it actually has more tourists visiting in the summer months than it does in the ski season. So you're guaranteed all year round rental income if you're looking at renting a property here. Down in the bottom left-hand corner there, you can see Annecy, which again is an absolutely stunning town with a beautiful lake. Brigitte Bardot used to have a castle on the lake there. I'm not sure if she still does, but you can see it if you go out in a boat. Really pretty town there. And average overseas buyers spend around 397,000 euros in the Rhône Alps, or 321 if you're in a city like Lyon. If you are looking for a ski chalet or something, actually in resort and near the lifts, it will be a lot more expensive. And I'm going to give you an example. So that's a chalet in actually in resort at 1.26 million. This one is near Lake Annecy is expensive. Can't actually see the price because the faces are over the top, but it's 700 and something thousand. This gives you a little pretty mountain village house just outside of resort, which is on the market at 175,000. And a farmhouse, if you're looking at a farmhouse in this region, in the Rhône Alps, that one's on the market at 400, I think it's 5,000 euros there. Then if we move to PACA, the Provence-Alpes Côte d'Azur, this is an international clientele that buy here. It's on the border of Italy and Monaco, so you'll see a lot of that in the architecture of the buildings and also in the dialect. The accent slightly changes. You've got miles and miles of beautiful lavender fields in the Provence area. The coastline is fantastic. There's a lot of international events like the Cannes Film Festival, the Monaco Grand Prix, etc. Nice is I think it is the biggest city, isn't it, in France, Nice? Oh. After Paris?
After Paris.
Lyon, right, okay, I've been corrected there. But there's the Nice salad niçoise that comes from here, and also there's very good wine, particularly rosé, that comes from this region. If we look here, average house prices in the Aix-en-Provence is around 321,000. And international buyers for this region are looking at spending around 462 in PACA. So you can see that the prices are a lot higher than they are in the southwest of France.
Just to interrupt you really quick, Joanna, I know somebody was on the chat talking about coming in May to look in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, but they're looking for something in the 200,000 range.
Saint-Paul-de-Vence.
Jess, will be very, very difficult. It's very, very popular and probably almost impossible, as Trevor says, at that sort of price.
But it would be better if you're looking for sun and the sort of beauty of that region. You could move to either Languedoc or the Bordeaux area.
Yeah, or you can move slightly back inland because, you know, if maybe half an hour or 40 minutes from Saint-Paul-de-Vence backwards into the mountains and the hills, you will be able to get something that price. So yes, you can go and visit Saint-Paul-de-Vence for the day, or you know, for the weekends, as we do in some of the tourist towns here, but still have a nice affordable home, which is half an hour to 40 minutes from the coast. So the further back you go, the lower the prices, and then you are affordable and you are in the Côte d'Azur as such. So, but actually in some of those towns it would be almost impossible. The same with Cannes, for example. You know, you would be very unlikely to buy very much for 200,000 in that sort of town.
You buy an apartment in Cannes for 200,000, but I mean, in Saint-Paul you're looking 700,000 upwards, and a nice villa will be something around more like 2 to 3 million.
Yeah,
right.
Very expensive there.
The voice of reason off camera. I like that. Yeah.
The voice of my ear on my left shoulder. Yeah.
So
this is giving you an idea. See, this is in the Var, so this isn't very far from the coast, and that's on the market 149,000. So it's a little pretty cottage. Cabaret, which is just a little bit back from the coast, that property's on the market 280,000. But then if you're going for a sort of 4-bed villa, then you are going to be looking at around 1 million, as you can see with that property there, and the swimming pool and sea views.
Yes.
France is probably, I don't know if anyone's aware, but it's actually the most visited country in the world, with 82 million tourists visiting it each year. And what that does mean, that if you are going to be living there permanently and you are looking at renting out your property, particularly in the summer months or the April to September, you're guaranteed to have enough tourists coming through. As you talked about earlier, it's extremely safe, particularly in rural areas. For example, where we live, insurances are very cheap because there's very, very little crime. Car insurance is cheap, there's very little cars on the roads, etc. And it's just a lovely place to live. The communities are fantastic. Everybody looks out for each other. Everybody invites everybody to everything. You know, I came from London, didn't even know who my next door neighbour is, but I practically know everyone in the village here. So it's totally different.
Multicultural. I mean, you meet people from countries. Neighbours are often, you know, Swedish, Danish, Dutch, German, Swiss, Italians, or Canadians.
All coming for the lifestyle, because France really is a lifestyle choice. You know, you wouldn't come here to make millions, because you're not going to do that unless you're in cities. But the lifestyle in France is really wonderful, and I think that's why people do come and buy here.
Absolutely. And I know we've got more tips to share here, but I want to get Jean Taquet in, if I can interrupt you. And I also need to get to Jean-Stéphane and Lance. And I know people want to be able to ask their questions as well. So it's a lot to share in just an hour. And I appreciate your everybody's patience. There is one question, and this will be a good one for Jean. So is this, Sarah asks, so right now it's not possible to rent out your apartment in Paris. Do you want to give us some of the rules on that as you understand them?
Okay, let's give first of all the law. The latest with the Paris regulation is that you need to register with the city if you're going to rent one of the rooms in your own home, in your own apartment. And that is absolutely fine. You maintain what I call a residential zoning for your apartment, and this is okay to do. They just find pretty heavily Airbnb because they are putting out advertisements for apartments that have not registered with the city. That gives you an idea. Now, if you want to rent on what I call pure Airbnb, where it's rented all year around and you're just the owner of it, then the city demands that you change the zoning of the apartment from being residential to being commercial, which means that you turn your apartment into, in effect, a hotel, which is quite expensive because Paris wants to keep a lot of people living in the city, and it's a very complex process. But I know of a few people who were determined to do it and spend an awful lot of money to actually change the zoning and be allowed by the city. In a nutshell, that's what it is.
Yeah, and also, just correct me if I'm wrong, Jean, what I understand is if it is you have to declare it as your primary residence, and you are allowed then to rent it out up to 120 days per year or 120 nights and no more.
Yes.
Yeah.
In other words, it's either you rent one of your rooms or you rent your apartment, which is your primary residence, for the time that is considered to be your vacation time, which is 3 months.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Technically, you're not supposed to be renting out unless it's your primary. That doesn't mean that people are not doing that. But it is getting more and more difficult because they're requiring this registration form and a number from the mayor's office. Yes, that's right, Sarah. So it's way different than it was just a few years ago, and we can follow up on that more specifically. And Jean is available to answer, all those kind of really specific questions too, not only individually, but at our in-person meetings that we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Just give me a little bit more time to do a little bit of research, so I have the latest. Yeah. That's all.
Yes, and also, Jean, just let people know. Number one, taxes. People don't have to pay income tax unless they are in France or doing business in France more than 6 months. So in other words, if it's a second home. Yeah, tell us what you know about that.
Okay, it's even better than that. And again, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to talk Franco-American because
no problem.
I know better. But I would think that for the other country, it's about the same thing. There is a treaty between the two countries where even though you are, let's say, a French fiscal resident, because among other things, you are in France for more than 183 days per calendar year, if the treaty says that the amount of money that you are making is not taxable in France because it's taxable in the United States, you pay absolutely nothing in France, even though you have the obligation to declare. That's the first thing. So it's not so much if you are a French fiscal resident, it is a lot more what the treaty says that is being taxed, which in a nutshell is if you don't earn it in France, it's not taxable in France.
And if I believe if you do earn it in France, you still are allowed, because you're paying taxes in the U.S. and we're the only country that chases you all over the world. But
no, you don't pay. You declare.
Declare.
You have a foreign exclusion of your foreign income exclusion, which changes every year. I think the last time I heard something, it was either 90,000 or 100,000.
Right.
Above that, then yes, you're also being taxed in the U.S.
Yes. And then finally, do they need a visa if it's a second home, if they're staying less than 3 months at a time?
Okay. That's where we love France and what I call the gray sinking sand. The law says, what we call the Schengen regulation, is that you can spend 90 days inside of Schengen, then you have to be out for 90 days and you're back in for 90 days. Or the other way to calculate it is that they take the 183 days before and they look at how many days you have been in Schengen. And just so that it's clear, if you think that you're going to spend 2 nights in London and come back, the British immigration is just about as paranoid as the American ones. And by the time you do it a second time, you get a big X on your passport and you're not going to get it anymore. So don't even think about it doing it that way. So I can assure everyone that there is no need for a visa to purchase anything in France, and there is just about no limitation as to a foreigner buying real estate in France. You really need to get into some very specific castles that have historical value where there could be some limitation there.
Okay, I appreciate that. And we can go, we will go into more in detail on that. I see somebody, Renee, has raised a hand. That's so cute. Renee, can you type in there what your question is? So you just have to hit the chat button. And then I want to go ahead and move while you're doing that over to Jean-Stéphane and Lance and introduce them. Lance, I think Jean-Stéphane, you want to go ahead and share your screen and show us your presentation, and we will have time after for questions, and I appreciate your patience. There is a lot to get through, so take it away.
Can you see the presentation?
No, you just have to hit share your screen. So you're going to hit share screen.
Here we go. Here we go.
Voila. And it hasn't shared. There we go. It's coming up.
Wonderful.
Voila. Perfect. And Renee, if you can, just go ahead and text. Okay. I think there was some confusion, Sarah, on there's a quick question before you start, Jean-Stéphane. The historical castle property, just don't put that away. That has nothing to do with the visa. He's just saying that, there's nothing stopping you from buying apartments or houses in France. A visa, if you want to stay for longer than 3 months, you have to get a long stay visa. It's as simple as that. The historical castle was mentioned in reference to, there's really no rules about owning anything. He's just saying if part of French history. Anyway, it's not an issue. Go ahead.
Okay, what I just wanted to say in two words is that if there is something that has a very important historical value, I mean, something that is owned privately but has so much value, the chances are that the city hall will do something to either preempt or find a way to block it. But it is so rare and extreme that you might also just ignore what I just said there. It's very, very, very rare.
Basically, it's nothing to worry about unless you're planning on buying a classified chateau, which I don't,
exactly.
I'm not thinking that anyone's going to do right now. But if you decide to buy a classified chateau, please invite me to stay.
And call me.
Yes, yes. Okay, Jean, go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. It makes a very good transition for me because, as you can see, we are specialized in listed building, prestigious building, and character properties. Hold on, I just need to move the slides. Here we go. So my name is Jean-Stéphane Villain, and just to tell you a little bit about my story is that I'm originated from Southwest France in a place called Aveyron. And after spending approximately 10 years abroad, I started, in fact, my career in an American company, me being French with an American wife in Ireland selling property on the German market. So that is Europe for you. And after this experience, I decided to come back to my hometown in Aveyron and find a way to promote my area and the heritage. And eventually, I thought real estate in character property would be a very good way to do it. So over the last 15 years, we've sold over 2,000 character property. Initially, many with English clients, because in my area, we had a Ryanair connection, which connected us to London and from London to the rest of the world. Over the time, we decided that we wanted, we had so much passion in character properties, which I'm gonna go through with you in a moment, that we specialize only in that. And now we have a network of agents and agencies across the Southwest and South and West France. So what is a character property? It's usually an old stone property which has preserved its original features and which is in a rural and preserved environment. This is a very good example. As you can see, it's away from every main road, industries. So it's very tranquil. And what you should know is that the part of the world in the Southwest where I come from has lots of rural France. It's considered as the safest place in France. So it's hardly any crime there. I thought just to give you an example of character properties that you can buy is this one which has been elected in France 2 years ago, the French most preferred house. It's been elected, voted #1 property in French heart. It's in my year is got typical red tiles, stone tiles which compose the roof, this fair stone, this covered terrace with the original wood work. And inside, to give you, you have a 500 years old kitchen with this original stone stone sink. It's original stone tiles. And on either side, you can see the place where they could range the cutleries and the glass and everything. But that's a traditional French fireplace where you can see on the right-hand side where they could bake the bread. That is very common to find in the property you would purchase with us. And that is not unusual in the property we sell to have original Renaissance fireplace. This is one of the we saw here. So to give you an idea, that is the area that Selection Habitat and Agence Saint-Vital cover in France. And Joanna made a very great presentation of all the area in France. I thank her for that. Now I'm going to pass it over to...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just for the people on the line, between the two of these agencies, almost every region is covered. So you just have to decide where you want to start looking, and we can get you, with either one of them and get you moving. I know a lot of people have really specific questions, and I can follow up on those with you privately. So go ahead.
And now I'm going to pass it over to our American boy at Selection Habitat. Lance, over to you.
Hi, my name's Lance Ojeda, and I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I lived in New York, Paris. I've been around. One of the reasons I wanted to speak to you is about my personal experience coming here. I had the dream, as a lot of people do, and I actually, jumped in with 2 feet and moved from Los Angeles at the time to rural France. And it was quite an experience. And a lot of people ask me, why rural France? And I just wanted to get into a different lifestyle after being in big cities all my life. And I've been here now about 12 years, purchased over 8 homes and renovated. So along the way, the agency that I used or started with was Selection Habitat, and I've been with them for, or purchased properties with them the last 12 years, and now I'm working with them. So if there's any questions that you have about moving here or being afraid to move here, I've been through it, and I'll tell you, it's just one of the most wonderful countries I've ever visited, and I'm never leaving. So you can go to, you can show them some of the properties. This is our little village where I live. It's where 2 rivers meet, the Lot River and the Truyère. This is where we started about 12 years ago. This is one of the first houses that we bought. It's an interesting story because I was involved in U.S. Real estate for quite a long time, and while I lived there, and Donnie's sister Bobby was my agent, meaning she helped me buy houses and sell them. And on this one particular sale, we all made so much money that she gave us a trip to France, specifically to her country house in Beausoul, which is in the center of, well, it's in Aveyron, close to Rodez. And so we fell in love with the area, and so we said we need to move here. So we were, daily on the Selection Habitat website, and this house came up, and our agent Philippe was giving us pictures and descriptions and so on and so forth, and we bought the house sight unseen. That's a leap of faith. People call us crazy, but after buying 30 or 40 homes in the United States, it was a pretty easy decision for us. This is a view of the house from across the ravine. In this little hamlet, there were 3 other homes. This was an old schoolhouse, the L'École Ancienne, that we renovated. And we used all these houses for rental income. And it's been very lucrative, actually. I mean, for rural France, we do rent them full year, all year round. We have people coming in from all over the world. Next, and this is the other little cottage, La Maisonnette. And as you can see, it's all the fish scale roofing with the stone walls and original interiors. And my wife is a designer, so we try to keep it in the same style as the houses where we purchased them. This is another view of an interior and the type of renovations that could be done.
You can see why they didn't have any trouble renting them out. They're absolutely beautiful, and I will attest to, having been to their most recent place, these 2 have incredible taste, and I know that Lance can help with, particularly with stuff that is sold, bought from their company with renovations, maybe not personally, but to help you through that. And the same is true of Leggett. And I'm going to go ahead and open up now the lines, and I know there was more that everybody wanted to get to, but I really want you guys to be able to ask your questions, and I'm going to try and control this in some way. But everybody is now unmuted, So I'm just going to pull, anybody who wants to step up and ask a question, please go ahead. Just state your name first. Anybody, maybe you guys we've answered all your questions. That's great. Well, you can also feel free if you're shy, to just ask them via the chat room here. Boy, everybody says beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful about your houses, Lance. Does anyone, if anyone wants to, if anybody wants to talk, go for it. If not, what I'm going to do is email you guys a copy of this presentation. And I also want to tell you, I'm going to have you, Jean-Stéphane, stop sharing your screen just so that I can share mine for a moment. And to let you guys know what, let's see, where are we? Here we go. To let you guys know that we're going to have some more events like this. We're having 2 more webinars. That's May 12th and September 23rd. I don't know if you'll want to do another webinar, but, and I've got a great question, you guys, and I think these are both excellent questions. How difficult is it to retire and not plan to work? I think that is the ideal scenario for anybody who wants to come to France. It's a great place to retire. That's what we plan on doing because it's so affordable. Where we have a home near Bordeaux, wine is €2 if we bring our own bottle into the local co-op. Food is incredible. Internet services can be an issue in the deep countryside. What's your experience with that, Lance?
No problems. We have high-speed ADSL, and we ran a Zoop business for 12 years with no problems. Everything was done through the internet.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to put in fiber.
Well, and I have had a little bit more problem where I'm at, and they're working on it. So, somebody is asking if I can only stay in France for 90 days and visit, then you have to be out for 90 days. That's if you decide to not, you can get a long stay visa. All you do with that is you go, there's a process. You have to go to the police department to, in where you're from in the US or Canada and just prove that you're not a criminal, basically. And there's some paperwork. Jean Taquet can help you with that. And then you can get a long stay visa that lets you stay for a year. Lance, do you want to tell folks how you guys dealt with that when you first moved?
Well, we got a long stay visa. I got an attorney in Los Angeles, a French attorney, that made the process really easy, and it was about 2 weeks. I can't believe how quick it happened. And then every year we just had to go to the mairie, which in our town is very small, and
that's the mayor's office.
Yes, we would resubmit our papers, and after 5 years, we just became permanent residents. It was a very easy process. For me, it was. It's much easier in a smaller town than Paris. If you're doing it in Paris.
Yeah, and they want to make sure that you have some money and some health insurance. I mean, really, it's just paperwork. So you can definitely stay for a long stay visa. If you want to work, then it's a whole different thing, and it's more involved.
But Donnie, you can do rentals, and you don't have to have a work visa. You can rent your property.
Right.
So that's a source of income. They don't call that work, although it is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. And I think somebody asked that question too.
Can I jump in for a few things here?
Please, Jean.
Anything that is rental, I totally agree with you. The French administration considers that the stones are earning the money and not the work that you're putting into being able to rent it. Absolutely true. The long stay visa is what is called le visiteur immigration status. It is not a tourist. It is a full immigration status, as Lance said it. and it allows you to stay in France 365, no problem. There was a small discrepancy that I need to talk about. Is that the health coverage in France, you get it right away as soon as you have immigration status in France. You don't have to wait at all.
That's correct.
Furthermore, is that there is no pre-existing condition and there is no waiting period. If your paperwork is completed, you get coverage from the day you submit the file, even if it might take 3 or 4 or 5 months before you actually get the full documentation. And those things.
Just mute, if you happen to be typing, and this is a mistake I made, just particularly for the people who are recording this, who are going to watch it later, and which there's many, just mute yourself if you happen to be typing. There is, Jean, somebody's asking, is there a law about allowing us to retire? My guess is,
it's the whole thing. It's the whole thing about the visitor immigration status. All you need to do is to prove 3 things. The first thing is that you have enough means, enough money to live on. And if you can prove that you have more than 14,000 euros in either a bank account or coming from a retirement account, you are in. You have complied with the requirement. The second thing is that, do you have a solid address in France? It's called the domicile. If you're going to buy a property in France, of course, you have the address. The last thing comes in is the health coverage. In some instances, for example, people have either chronic illnesses or that kind of thing, and will need to go from their policy in the United States and ask for a little bit of a rider so that they have international coverage for 3 months or 6 months. And as soon as they arrive, they do the paperwork regarding immigration, and then they sign on the public system, which will accept them regardless of the pre-existing condition, even chronic disease like diabetes or others.
Right. Yes. Christian is asking about if we reach out to the French consulate here, would they recommend an attorney like Lance found? Yes, Jean helps with long stay visas. I have a notaire who's more focused on, you can do inheritance as well.
I can talk about inheritance very quickly because I'm sorry to interrupt you, is that let's say about 2.5 years ago, the EU regulation changed and it has an impact on non-EU citizens. What it is that they have allowed the people who are foreigners in the countries where they live to have, for example, in this case, a French will that will say that they want the law of, let's say, California being ruling their estate.
Nothing much.
What it means.
Go ahead. We're just, John is speaking, so if somebody who's talking in the background, just mute yourself. Go ahead, John.
And what happens is that in France, you cannot disinherit your children at all. But if you have this French will that says that California's law regulates your estate, you can completely have an American will which disinherit your children if you want to, and you give everything to your spouse. The consequence from a fiscal point of view is that the French fiscal inheritance laws still apply, but for right now, spouses and tax partners receive the estate completely free of tax, and I don't see President Macron changing this anytime soon.
Yep. The inheritance issue is not as complex. I was really worried about it, but there is a way you can start gifting your home to your kids. There's an allowance like we have in the States for a certain amount that you can set it up so they don't have to pay any inheritance tax or not. So that, you know, all of these things, the point I think in this presentation is just that, you know, it's just not that difficult. There are issues, but you know, we have figured out a way to make it work for us. It's been absolutely delightful, and there's great value, as you can see with our presenters. They've given you some gorgeous you know, examples of what you can buy. I know somebody said it was an issue trying to figure out where you want to end up. I'm happy to take and talk to anybody on the phone. I know that Joanna is really pretty good at that as well, because of you know, being able to look at the whole country as a whole. So you just really are trying to figure out, you know, how close to a train do you want to be? How do you want to be able to rent your place out? Do you want to be close to an international airport or not? So those are some of the considerations, and also the weather. Here are the folks. Stephanie Sirot will join us on our next webinar. And Jean Taquet was talking visas, healthcare. He knows a lot about everything, as well as setting up a business, which I know folks talked about. I can introduce you to any of these people so you can start looking now and not postpone your dream. And I love this quote as a way to end. You know, life is happening now. And so I just want to encourage all of you to make your dreams come true. The seminars are happening in the fall, the in-person, and I appreciate your thanks, Sarah. But Marel da Castillo, which is a beautiful name, I'm very happy to work with all of you guys and try and get you going so that you don't have to wait for the seminars in the fall. If you want to, you know, start looking now, there's no reason not to. And I want to really thank all of our experts, Joanna, Trevor, Jean Taquet, Jean-Stéphane, and my friend Lance. You guys are amazing. I appreciate all of your help and your work on this. And I'm going to send all of you that participated an email follow-up. And I'm going to also include in there my phone number. And merci tout le monde aussi, René. Thank you to all of you for participating, and have a wonderful day. I hope you have enjoyed the sunshine. I'm going to go out and do that. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.